the mindset of the people has changed. I mean, at least for my teams, the mindset has changed. They no longer see themselves as just a event organizer. They are a support of the industry.
Well, hello and welcome to the next EW sessions. I'm Paul Woodward. I'm the guest editor of Exhibition World magazine, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Elaine Chia, who is the CEO for Asia of Comexposium. Elaine, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. You're joining us from Singapore, but you have a very wide brief covering the whole of the Asia Pacific region, from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, across to India. So can you maybe, to start with, give us a sense of where things are with your different businesses, where you're able to be working and where you're not at the moment?
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me today. Well, yes, we do have a big portfolio across Asia, but primarily our business is in a large part of China. And so we have been fortunate to be able to run most of our businesses in Shanghai. And one of the largest shows that we have in Shanghai would be CL China, which we operated in October of 2020. At the same time, we postponed it from May of 2020 to October 2020. But this year we managed to do it in again at the same time, 2021 in May. Apart from that, we had acquisitions in the last 3 years in China, and we have successfully been able to operate most of the acquisitions that shows that we have acquired in the last few months. So we have been fortunate in that sense. Outside of China, part of Southeast Asia mostly will not be able to operate, but we were able to get some shows, our conferences done in Auckland and in Sydney, smaller scale ones, but well, at least we were able to get some activities going in that part of the world. But suffice to say, outside of within Southeast Asia, nothing has been able to operate.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the challenges that the team in China had last year with having to move the show to different dates, and how did that work for them, and how did they manage that?
Yeah, I think when the pandemic struck us in March, when we found out about the fact that we had to postpone our show, was the first time in our lives, I think, having to postpone such a big show. I think everyone from the operations staff all the way to the leadership team had a very hard time, and we had a very big learning curve from changing of prices, rolling over of contracts, moving the venue, in fact, because we were not able to stay in the Pudong Hall. We had to go over to Hongqiao to operate. There have been negotiation contracts. The amount of logistics that we have to make plans for was amazing. I think in that 6 months, we had a big learning curve from everyone, from the GMs to the receptionists, I suppose, in the office. Yeah.
Now, yours is quite an international show. So what are you seeing in terms of how the events have bounced back, both in terms of exhibitors and the visitors, who I guess certainly for the China fairs are primarily Chinese. So tell us about that.
Well, our shows, Comexposium shows in China are largely international based. So we have a large portfolio of international exhibitors, and we've also a large portfolio of international visitors coming to the show. Obviously, with the change during the last 6 months, it has been, the last 1 year, it's been very tough for us to be able to continue to stay in the same scale and size of our shows. Naturally, there was shrinkage in the surface of the show. However, what's interesting was that we found that our visitorship has significantly improved, both in terms of quality as well as in quantity. And on reflection of why the quality has really significantly improved is because a lot of the bosses of the smaller companies and the buyers are not able to travel outside to do other to visit other trade shows. So naturally, they will come to visit a well-branded trade show in China. So the quality of the visitors has significantly improved. The ROI of the exhibitors has also improved. The expertise tells us that in the last two shows that they have done, they felt that the adrenaline on the show floor was excellent. They felt that the engagement was great. The right quality visitors came into the show floor. And I think that gives us a lot of encouragement into how we are going to move forward as we are able to get back to a full-scale show in 22, 23.
Yeah. Yeah, so there are some maybe lessons that can be learned. I mean, in what ways do they think their ROI is improved? I mean, that's quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, for a smaller show, what are you hearing from exhibitors that says that they're actually having a better experience at this event?
Yeah, when the shows are really much bigger, you're going touch and go, and when you visit a show, you touch and go, you're seeing everything, right? We're not really going into the details of what exactly you're looking for. But I think as the show becomes tighter, the quality of the right audience comes to the show, they know exactly what they're looking for. So the ability to get that actual trading on the show floor is very apparent. And in fact, what's also interesting was that our rebooking rate has also improved in the last show as compared to when our show's much bigger. So I think these are some interesting nuggets that we have seen, over the last few months. I've always joked with the team that we're not saying that they didn't put in an effort. We're not saying that it's not their effort, but we also pad down to the fact that there's a lot of nuance related to the environment that has also brought a significant value to the quality of the show.
Yeah, thank you.
I think a lot of the other exhibitors, other organizers are also seeing the kind of results, I would believe.
Yeah, interesting. Now, like everybody else, I'm sure you have had a number of experiments and things that you've tried to do with exhibitors and buyers who haven't been able to come to the physical events that have taken place in China, or for other markets where the events haven't taken place at all. So where have you sort of had successes? I mean, what's your thoughts on the whole sort of virtual world, and where do you feel that you've had some successes with your business activities?
What was interesting is that apart from China, a lot of the other businesses outside of China had struggled with bringing in revenue, keeping the team on board. So what we did was, in the last 12 months, our team to really they really thought out the boxes. We really came up with all kinds of activities to support the growth of continue to bring in revenue. And some of the key activities were not something that we have we don't know. It's not so different. We did a lot of matchmaking activities. We even gone to the extent of doing industry reports, focus group for our customers, in order to keep the relationship going. That's one. Number two, of course, is to drive some revenues into the business. But what's really interesting was that coming out from it, we see ourselves not so much as just an event organizer. We've seen ourselves now as a conduit towards the industry's trading. So we want to see ourselves moving forward out of in the last 12 months, is to see ourselves differently, from not just an operator of an exhibition, not just a logistics provider, but see ourselves as a data owner. How do we help to broker relationships between our customers? What do they want, and what does other customer want to sell? So I think that's the key, where we are identifying the changes in the way we are seeing ourselves as a business as we evolve. And so this is where we also think that this is where it will stay. The mindset of the people has changed. I mean, at least for my teams, the mindset has changed. They no longer see themselves as just a event organizer. They are a support of the industry.
Yeah. One practical sort of outcome of that sort of exercise that you had mentioned to me was what you were calling your matchmaking weeks for some of your exhibitors who couldn't come. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how that worked and that sort of experience?
Yes. When we spoke about it earlier, we were talking about how it was difficult for some of the smaller some of the companies to be able to enter into, say, for example, China as a result of the travel boundaries, the travel border closure. So what we did was we worked a lot with some of the international pavilions, one of which is like our Turkish pavilion. We brought in a section of the Turkish pavilion and did a concentrated matchmaking over a week between the buyers and the sellers. So they tell us what exactly they're looking for in terms of the buyers, the products, the sectors, and who they're looking for. And we made it directly with the right people in China. Obviously, it is not as straightforward as being on the show floor, whereby it was simple enough to just meet and have dinners and all that. This was really curated because we had to go into a 1 week session of translators in tow, sales managers in tow, project managers in tow, all on a Zoom call together with the Turkish embassy's teams. So it was a very extensive and tough exercise, but the result is much more apparent than you would just to do on a normal show floor. We find this kind of matchmaking exercise to be important as we move forward. And that's where we allude to the fact that we see ourselves no longer as just trying to get people on the show floor, but we want to see ourselves as a data owner and to be able to understand what are the requirements that our buyers and sellers are looking for. And that's where we see the advantage and rather the value that we bring as we call ourselves an organizer.
Yeah, really interesting. And I mean, do you imagine, do you, that even once we're back to a relatively normal exhibition environment, that at least some of these initiatives will continue and that you'll carry on working with some of those types of projects?
Yeah, I definitely think that what we learned coming out from, we're still coming out of it. I'm not saying that we are out of it afterwards, but the mindset of the teams have changed. We have to be prepared for the fact that we are not able to do a physical show. And when we're not able to do a physical show, what do we really own at the end of it? What we own is the relationship, what we own is the database, what we own is understanding what are the needs of both the buyers and the sellers. And that's where we have to continue to be able to develop that. I think that's, as we move forward out of it, that's the key learning that I'm taking away from it and my teams are taking away from it. That this will, for us, will be there to stay. The mindset of being able to develop this, whether we do it on a physical platform, whether we do it on an online platform, whether we do it elsewhere, the concept doesn't change.
Absolutely, very, very interesting. Your business in Singapore and other parts of Southeast Asia and China, because your brands in China, I think, are quite sort of dependent on international participation. So a lot of your business is very dependent on the restrictions which we currently see on travel being eased up. What's your current expectation and when we might begin to see some sort of return to relatively normal international travel around the region in Southeast Asia, in China, and other places that you're working with in the region?
Yeah, Paul, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we think that with the vaccination rate of Singapore at least being about 85 to 90% in the next few months, we really believe that we would be able to open up to do much more businesses, to open up to do more businesses. The only caveat is that our neighboring countries, which is the main travelers into Singapore, as most of our trade shows, may still have issues and we may have to protect ourselves against that. So that is actually the key worry that I see in the Singapore government's eyes in terms of opening up totally. In China, the vaccination rate continues to be, it hovers around 50 to 60% now, but from what we're hearing from the Sinovac, the vaccination in terms of the efficacy, in terms of the reboosting that's required after 6 months and all that, so there's also that kind of worry about us being able to fully open up the economies for China or Southeast Asia's economies full-fledged by 2022. I think the likelihood is that hopefully we give ourselves a view that 2023 things will get into a much better state, right? But I'm not saying that 2023 is going to come back to the 2019 way of life. It's probably, maybe it will come back to 50% or 60% of 2019.
Okay, so a sort of a slow path forward by the sound of things. Let's wrap up by a more optimistic and sort of forward-looking view. Let's say by 2023 we can the worst effects of the pandemic are behind us. You're sort of back to running a business in what prior to the pandemic was regarded as probably the most exciting part of the world in terms of business prospects. Which areas in Asia excite you as having really sort of good business prospects, both in terms of geographical markets and different types of business as well, sort of the industries that you're focused on? So once we can get back to organizing our normal businesses, where are you going to be focused?
Definitely, China will continue to be the main interest point for us at m.i.c.e. We continue to like the economy, the vibrancy, the growth of the economy. Apart from the first tier cities in China, we're also definitely bullish about the second tier cities in China, and that's where we acquired a Shandong business in the last 12 months. We managed to acquire the business in March of 2022, in fact, just before the COVID started. So China continues to be a big chunk of our interest, and obviously the other areas that we'll be interested in is Indonesia and India, and this will be other areas that we'll be keen on. In terms of verticals, in terms of products, m.i.c.e. is very strong in F&B, and we are also very strong in agriculture. So we definitely will want to continue to build our relationships in these areas, and we do see that post the pandemic, health, food, quality, lifestyle is much more important to the people, the man on the street. So I think that continuously we will continue to build our verticals in the food and beverage industry, whether it is downstream or upstream.
Very good. Well, let's look forward to all kinds of new businesses coming in China, India, Indonesia, and other parts around the region. And to sort of more normal times ahead, we all hope. Elaine Chia, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. It's been really great chatting with you, and we'll look forward to meeting in person somewhere before too long, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.